Welcome back to another episode of Mic'd Up Podcast, where we hope to inspire you through stories. Right, today there's only the three of us here, actually, because Pei-Ling is unable to join us. But in this episode, we will be talking about facing uncertainties in our lives. So this is actually the third and final part of our mental health series. Right, before we get into the podcast, we'd like to emphasize that everything we discuss here are just our general thoughts and opinions, and they do not represent actual mental health professional advice. All right, but for this, do check out our previous episode on how to care for your mental health and achieve your breakthrough, where we spoke to two mental health professionals on the related topics. Right. Lastly, do hit the subscribe and notification button, as well as follow us on Mic'd Up, that's MICED_UP, as we bring you stories and discussions from various topics. All right, with that, let's begin the show with our first question. So, Elton and Shun, do you think
Hello.
uncertainty in life contributes to stress and anxiety?
Ethan, you go first.
Oh, why always I'm going first? But
For fun. Why not?
I think yes, it does contribute to anxiety in a certain way, especially stress. I'm not so sure about anxiety, but definitely uncertainty creates a certain amount of stress. But I think everyone reacts differently to uncertainty and levels of stress. Like probably for me, I embrace uncertainty in a sense. I kind of like the whole uncertain thing of how things go, so that I like surprises. I like new stuff. So a certain amount of uncertainty is good. If like every day is the same and it's too predictable, I don't really like that also. So I would say a certain amount of uncertainty is good, but it does contribute to a certain amount of stress, especially if you already have something going on and you're already stressed out and you have to deal with even more uncertainty. That could lead to stress. I wouldn't say so much for anxiety because I'm not so sure about that. Personally, I don't experience anxiety on that level, but stress definitely that's something that I totally relate to lah.
I think for
True.
me, right, I think it does contribute to both anxiety and stress, where like it's like this never-ending loop, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
unsure about things, you begin to worry about it, you begin to stress out, and this stress can lead to you becoming or having like anxiety attacks because you're just like constantly repeating this cycle of I don't know what's going to happen, I get stressed out and I'm worrying about it, and it's just never ending until you figure out a solution or until you find out what or to make that thing become certain as possible. So yeah, I think for me it does contribute to both, and the level or severity of it really depends on the individual themselves and how they handle the situation. So yeah, like for people like Elton, right? So he embraces uncertainty because he doesn't want a routine in his daily schedule. But
I wouldn't
for
say like
me, I don't know. For me, I prefer having to know more before doing certain things lah. Otherwise, it can lead to me thinking constantly about the problem. Or
speaking about routine, definitely routine is important. But I also like routine in my life. Like certain parts of life, you need to have a routine. Like probably waking up a certain time and doing certain things at a certain time.
well, if you don't have a routine to wake up, then that's just you dead, right?
I mean, some people they wake up early, then they wake up late. It fluctuates, but I think certain parts of your life you need to have routine, and certain parts is more of the new things that you do, the things that you do, which is not on a daily basis. Something like your work, you're looking for challenges and you're looking for novelty. That is something you want a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of challenge. Maybe not all the time, definitely not all the time, but I definitely think that a good amount is needed lah.
Yeah, true. And actually, right, the next question I wanted to ask is also has already been addressed by Elton now, whereby he says that there's actually some parts of uncertainty is actually good, right? But whereas for Shun, I realized that you sort of feel that uncertainty is something a little bit more on the negative part. So do you think that there's actually any positive aspects of having uncertainty?
I mean, it's really context dependent, right? Like okay, maybe let me think of an example. Or maybe you're just thinking like, oh, I'm expecting. You're not so sure whether you're going to expect something good or whatnot, like you're getting a present or something like that. Yeah, I guess in that way, that kind of uncertainty can lead to a positive outcome because you're gonna be happy once you see it or you find out. But I guess for the sake of the discussion, it's usually when we are encountered with problems and whatnot lah. So that's my take on it at
Can I say
least.
some like it's actually how you divide it in three ways lah. Uncertainty is a negative way of thinking about it. Change is a more neutral way of thinking about it. And surprises, usually you think of surprises as a good thing, right? So it's how you frame that thing in your life. Some when we see a change that we don't like, it's uncertainty.
Mm.
But the change that we like is a surprise. Something out of the ordinary, which is good for you, it's a surprise. Right.
And
So
change
even
is
in
just
your,
change.
yeah, change is a very neutral word. Even in your work, so you're moving from university to work, it's a change, all right? But if it changed for the good, it's a surprise, it's a challenge for you. But if you don't like your work, if it's something that you don't know what you're doing, every day you're stressed out, that is uncertainty. So it's pretty much how you frame it in terms of what you do and how you do it.
Yep. I mean, I totally agree with that, because personally, I feel that yes, uncertainty, they do contribute to stress and anxiety. But if let's say we are able to, get make the use of it, make the good use of it, we can very well, open doors for different opportunities, or it will stretch you as a person. So that's where we are able to develop ourselves as a person. But of course, having constant uncertainties may not work, because some people, they react differently to it. They will constantly worry when they have this sort of uncertainties, when they cannot make up their minds. They will feel lost and stuff. So it will, really wreck up their whole emotional part of things.
Okay, can I say sometimes uncertainty is not during our daily lives. In our daily lives, we want a certain amount of certainty. We want a certain amount of habits, routines. We like that, right? But if you have too much uncertainty, even I wouldn't like so much uncertainty in my daily lives. But the fact that we demonize uncertainty as something that we don't want to encounter at all, that it's something that inhibits growth lah. That's just what I see. Yeah, just saying that.
I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, everyone should go through some level of uncertainty because that helps to, develop yourself as a person, like you said. I don't disagree with that. It's just, it's more of, I mean, easier said than done about how you mentioned how someone sees or encounters like this kind of uncertainty. Like there are those who see it more negatively, there are those who see it more positively, and some who just don't care as much. So again, really depends on the context and on the individual, how they see it at least. And
I would say it's wordplay lah. Like, honestly, there's always few ways you can frame one word, right? I don't know what. Yeah, if you think about it, like what I said, that the three ways of framing is literally the same thing. But once we put something in a certain category, it turns into something negative. While something in a certain category, it's wow, it's challenging. It's breaking out your comfort zone, that kind of thing. But uncertainty is literally the same thing, but just because it doesn't work for you, hence we call it uncertainty.
I mean, yeah, true lah. But like again, like I said, easier said than done. Not everyone can change how they think about. Like some are just naturally more pessimistic or neurotic than others. So,
but humans
really...
always we revert back to things we're familiar with.
Yes, that's very true.
We like things that are comfortable, even though we won't really grow from it, but we feel comfortable in it and we won't feel so stressed out with a certain routine. Yeah.
Okay, that was very nice. With that being said, right, since we have already dig so much into uncertainty, so what is your biggest uncertainty as of right now, and how do you feel about it?
I think for me right now it's definitely, I mean, again, we keep going back to the topic of work, right? But for me, that is my biggest uncertainty lah. Like, is this something I'm going to continue doing for X years of my life, or am I going to do something different? It, I mean, like everyone says, we're still young, so there is time to develop and do different things. But
Mm.
you can't help but feel that there's a level of like, I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, no one knows what's going to happen, but it's just it's something I think about lah, and I do worry that I get complacent in life. Just sticking to the same thing, which I don't think I would want to do that. But again, I don't know where life is going to take me, and it's just
Right.
like that, lor. Have to wait and
Mm,
see.
mm. Yeah, I think it's not mainly because we are just fresh graduates.
Mm.
This is our first job, so there's a lot of uncertainties in terms of our career. Right. What about
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been living with uncertainty.
Elton?
I wouldn't say
All of us,
uncertainty. I would phrase the word as challenging myself, challenges. But I've always been living with that ever since foundation and university. Like Shun says, I'm a part-time student. So to a certain extent, that's true, because I would mainly be focusing on outside projects and doing other things. And as a student, doing all those kind of things is really a whole new platform. You're speaking to people who are more senior than you, they've done more stuff than you. And also, most of the time when you're doing those things, you are literally clueless. You are learning as you go. So I figured that's how I actually learn stuff. And compared to university, I wasn't always someone who studies very well. So I actually applied what I learned outside onto my studies, and that's how I learned. So I like uncertainty. As I said, I like uncertainty to a certain extent. But when it comes to your overall life as a general, you want a set path to say, I would eventually get to this someday, and it's a definite thing. But we know nothing is definite, kind of thing. So I think biggest uncertainty right now definitely will be life lah. I mean, that if you want to, I frame it in a negative sense of way is, with work I can agak see how is it going, and it's something that I look forward to. Life, not say I don't look forward to, but it's so vast. Like that with business, with work, there is things that have been proven to work for in a certain industry, certain tasks that you do, certain work. But with life, everyone is different. There's no one person who has the exact same life as you. So there's no way to say they can only guide you in a certain way, but you have to make your own decisions yourself. So that's the uncertainty in that lah.
And I guess the follow-up question here will be, how do you feel about having that uncertainty, like for both Elton and Shun?
I would say
Like some people may
it, but that's my whole stance since the start. Actually,
but embracing it is not exactly an emotion per se.
No, how I see it is, I'm basing it as in I would do. So I always tell people in life is basically yes or no. Like you flip a coin, you either do it or you don't do it. So like even though starting this podcast, when we started off, we were definitely uncertain about how this would turn out. Right? It literally started as, hey, I called the, hey, you want to start a podcast? She's like, okay, I guess so. Then Shun, we were literally at a top fund. We were lining up for food. And I asked him, hey bro, you want to start a podcast now? Like, why not?
Why not?
So I said at that time, none of us knew what was going to happen.
Correct.
And we worked through it as we go. So how do we feel about it? Sometimes I feel like it's exciting. Uncertainty is exciting because the possibilities are endless. But yet again, it can be good, it can be bad. But my take home is, if you don't do it, you never know, right? If you never started this podcast, we never know how far would it go, or what opportunities would it open us to. So if you put one word, how do I feel about it? It's definitely I'm excited about uncertainty until it's not exciting. Then that is where you choose whether to change your path or drop it, or basically a lot of people they see, back to the word change. right?
Mm.
So if you're afraid of change, then you probably be stuck on something you don't like or something that's failing.
Mm.
Yeah, so if you know that the thing is not working for you, then probably it's time for you to explore. You got to see if do you want to still work on it and push through it and see how the results go some more, or it maybe it's a sign for you that, oh, maybe I should change my path. Right? That's not what Shun say also. It's not something that he wants to do for the rest of the life, kind of thing. So up to a point, he might think that maybe this is not the thing for me. Should I push through, or should I just do something else? Kind of thing. But yeah, Shun, what do you think? I'm sorry.
I think just more of like adding on lah. But I feel it's very difficult to place just one single emotion about how I feel when it comes to uncertainty. Certain like certain uncertainties that I have in my life, I have different emotions or feelings towards it. But I think I would generally agree with Elton. As like I too believe that if you never try, you never know, and there is a level of excitement there for it also lah. But really, it is there's just no one way to really like put it under. There's no one emotion that you can say like I feel like this. Like that there's many things going on that you can feel excited, you can feel like upset, angry, scared, like just like everything could be under it. And I think it's a bit unfair also lah to just place a single emotion or feeling towards facing uncertainty or just having these uncertainties in the first place. That's my
All
2 cents. Yeah.
I personally feel like uncertainty comes out of fear of not knowing what's out there.
That is what uncertainty is, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, literally that's what uncertainty is. So fear definitely is the main is how we redirect that fear. Even though through the excitement, while you're excited about something, you're also scared that what if it doesn't turn out right? Right. I'm not saying I'm excited to do this podcast and that's it. I shouldn't say there's a lot more of emotions going into it. How I also like I was fearful that, oh, if I did this podcast and it doesn't work, how? That kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about the word fear when it comes to?
I think fear is very much related to uncertainty as well, because like you mentioned, if you're uncertain about something, it means you don't have a lot of control towards the situation, right? And when you do not have control, you would start to feel anxious. You feel scared, right? Because a lot of the things that we feel comfortable with are the things that we can control. If it's something that you cannot control and you cannot predict, that's where a lot of fear comes in. Yeah. So, what about Shun? And Elton? What do you think?
Yeah, you're not wrong saying that, fear and uncertainty is like very much connected. But I mean, from the chat I had with the two mental professionals also lah, just bringing it into this episode also, I think, I mean, they mentioned that it is something that's normal, and it's something that we all as humans go through. We cannot help but experience these sort of things, right? But it's recognizing what you have control over and doing something about it, and not having control over and just letting it be, and not having that extra set of worries to weigh you down lah. So I mean, generally that's how I would live life, but it is nice to hear, like, especially a professional saying it. Like, sometimes you just really
It's
gotta
okay.
accept how things are, and if you can control it, do something. If you can't, that's it. It's
Go
okay.
with the flow.
So
Yeah. It's also like the circle of control. Like you control what you can, and like during a football match, you cannot control the coin flip.
I mean,
Well,
Yes,
for the most part, no.
but let's not say football match. But technically, a coin flip, you can't control the coin flip. But after that, what happens after the coin flip? That is what you can control.
Exactly.
Right. So it's all about, yeah, what Shun said definitely is right. Your circle of control. Control what you can, and don't even bother to control what you can't, because being stressed and trying to control what you can't is going to bring more stress, and you're going to feel like I won't say this word, but a bit worthless, because it feels like you can't do anything about it. Why even anything?
Yeah.
Rather than
It-
if you just go with the flow and do what you can.
There's just one thing piling up another, like if you just keep adding all of these together, like
Yeah.
especially if you
It's like
think you can control it,
snowball.
is the most tiring part. Like I think I have control over something where in reality I actually don't. And it's hard to distinguish lah sometimes also, like what you know you can control and what you think you can control. So I guess it comes with experience, and yeah, it just comes with experience dealing with all these uncertainties
You
and
can
whatnot.
control up to a certain extent.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but
Then you realize it's probably not the case.
Right. Okay. Then there was one thing that you mentioned about going with the flow during uncertainty, right? So the question is going with the flow, all right, though it's as cliche as it is, do you think that is something that is really what we should do every time we face something, an uncertainty that we cannot control?
I will put it as, if you're on a boat in the middle of the sea or in a river, you're definitely going with the flow, right? You cannot fight the flow. But while you're going with the flow, you should actually look for your options. What can I do next? Is this the direction I'm going? Can I try to steer it that way? Even though you're still going with the flow, but you're actively looking for different venues, different options, different things that you can do to change the course. So that's what I say, you cannot change the flow of the water, but what you can change is where are you going to steer the boat to?
Your direction.
Yeah. Because the one thing is concerned, we are always going forward.
Correct.
Right? Even though you think you're going backwards, you're actually going forward.
So it's not purely just going with the flow, but while you are riding on that wave per se, you are also aware of what's around you. What are the options? What are the choices that you can make?
So if you see an opening that, oh, now I can make a decision, it's now my turn to turn this boat, that is when you make you take control of your life, kind of thing.
Anything to add on?
It beats being stressed up and uptight about things, so might as well you just have a more relaxed or more open mind towards like situations. So just go with the flow.
If you've been whitewater rafting, have you done during your camp?
I didn't go. I only did those like flying fox stuff because I was afraid of heights. No, but regardless, right? Like it helps that we come from a background that we are able to think like this. Again, it's not easy for everyone to just quote unquote go with the flow. And even those that do go with the flow, they're just like, literally sitting in the boat and not doing anything and not making these like active decisions, conscious decisions to change. So I think in a way we are quite blessed to be able to think like this. But yeah, I do think that it is one of the better ways to handle situations, because again, you can't control everything. You only can control what you can control. So might as well you take a more relaxed approach towards it rather than just being constantly worked up. Yeah.
I would just like to say, like, if you guys know about my studying, my whole university life, I have really been the go with the flow kind of person. Serious. I took business psychology because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and business seemed like a easy option, like a very mainstream option, and my friends were taking psych, so I eventually opted for business psychology. And the joke was that if you say you're a business graduate, people think like business, I mean everyone's a business, but when you say you're a psychology graduate, like there's the science aspect to it. It's a bit that's the joke. That's the joke. It's not. Psych people would know that that's not pretty true. So it's, although I'm going with the flow, I'm still taking my degree, I'm taking my course, I'm going to my classes. Going through the motions every single day is going to flow, but I'm always looking for options. What can I do on the side? This project, can I steer my life in this way? Can I accept that project? Know these people, network with these people. So in that sense, I am open to options, and I'm also trying to steer when and whenever I can.
But I think that was a very well put way of being on the boat and going with the flow. But at the same time, you're looking out for, avenues to park your boat per se lah. Because a lot of the times when we say go with the flow, a lot of people expect that, okay, I will
I
just
do nothing.
Yeah,
I
correct.
dido.
I do nothing. Correct. And I just let it flow. But at the same time, that if you just let it flow, that cycle will constantly,
Repeat
be going
itself.
round and round. There is no end to it. There is no end to that uncertainty per se. So if let's say you are anxious, or there is some sort of negative emotion tied to that uncertainty, it will just continue looping. There is no end to it. So I think that was a very, very nice way to put it. Right. So jumping on to the next question, usually when we talk about uncertainty, we also relate it to decision making, right? Because when we feel unsure about something, we usually also have troubles, making decisions, right? So the question here is, was there a time when you struggled to make a decision because of your uncertainties?
Flip a coin.
Where
Ask
to
Siri.
eat.
Ask Siri. It's okay. Vivek used to do that. I think was it Viv?
Yeah, I mean, all of us is just like, I mean,
Yeah.
anything also, just flip a coin. Just
Dude, she
that
asked
is the
Siri to
decision.
flip a coin.
Yeah. But okay, I mean, but back to the
Is there a
question, like,
time?
yeah.
Wait, and before that, if there is, also share with us, how did you overcome it? Like, what was the biggest time when you weren't able to make a decision because you were hesitating and being very uncertain about it? And if you managed to overcome it, how did you do it?
Dating you.
Go. What?
What?
Now I know it was a
okay.
very big uncertainty, huh?
Bye guys. I'm gonna head out.
Ciao dulu.
Whoa! I was
But
not
why
expecting
do you
that.
say so
Okay.
though?
Oh, you want?
No, I mean,
Okay, should you prep your answer first? I shall dig myself out of this hole first.
You sendiri buat. I
That's
didn't say
I mean,
anything, man. I'm just here to listen.
It'll be a good. I think it'll be a good story to tell lah. I mean, if you're in a relationship, you're thinking about whether you should go with this girl or not, or go with this guy or not. Like
okay.
for me with Del, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure whether I should date her. I actually asked my friend, should I date her? And it's because the thing is, I think now, probably now only she hears about it. But with relationship, the thing is there's more consequences to a yes and no. It's not like a business thing, because feelings get hurt. And if things don't go right, and it's more to it than like if you make other decisions also, the consequences is less long term. While for a relationship, it sticks to the person, and if it's a good relationship, it might shape how they treat other relationships in the future. And if it's a bad one, they might have some repercussions from it. So you don't want to rush into a relationship also. You want to know whether it's for that person, and also for you, whether it's a good fit. And with Del, it was definitely uncertainty, but so we actually had a 3 months trial period. Quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, she called it a Spotify 3-month subscription.
Probation.
What do you call that? The what is it called?
The trial period, the
Free trial lah.
free version.
Free premium trial. So yeah, that actually helped us in trying to figure out, even when we're together, how does it feel like together, and is this a thing that we want? Would it? So we were really open during that 3 months, and that actually helped with the whole uncertainty part of dating each other. And it helped that we didn't immediately jump into it and say that yes. So I think I asked you in February. So we actually officially got together in like March. Not March, May.
Yes.
3 months. So May. So yeah, I mean, sometimes with uncertainty, it's you have to actually talk it out. I mean, in relationships, instead of jumping in straight and then after that just regretting or seeing that, oh, that one is not right, but you're just pushing it through. That's why we have a lot of after 3 months you break up, after 5 months you break up kind of thing. And at the 3 months period, we actually had a talk saying that whether we wanted to break up, was it a right decision. And so it comes to that point where you made like just now I said, you made a decision, and it comes to a point you got to think whether are we still going to work it through, or are we going to just switch paths. In our case, it's break off. So we actually said that, oh, we're going to work it through and see how it goes following that. And voila, we are approaching on 2 years. And communication is very important, because I think a lot of time uncertainty is because you don't know a lot of stuff. You are fearful of the unknown. With communication, you make a lot of things known, and you can make your decisions based on the options that's provided in front of you. Yeah. So I'm just saying in terms of relationship lah.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
but
for
another
that
thing,
context, for sure.
Yeah, I think another thing to add on is also that for like the example that Elton gave, that was something that there was this sort of so-called a trial period where you're able to make a decision, see how it turns out, and then make the next step of decision, for example, whether or not to continue or to break it off. But that was something that we were able to formulate and control per se. But there are also situations where you are not able to have that so-called trial period and just really make a decision there and then the consequences come immediately after that. So I think it's very important for us to evaluate the situation, how much you will possibly gain, how much you will possibly lose, and then make your decisions from there. Yeah. What about Shun?
I was just gonna say how I about my experience of choosing my course, but okay, y'all went there. I'm a
It's really I mean it just came by. I thought about it.
it
will
yeah.
help.
I mean, it's a good example also, but yeah, I mean for me lah, at least it was just like after, at least nearing the end of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do with life, because I never, okay lah, I was literally also just a anything go with the flow sort of
go with the
person.
flow. We all same kawan.
Yeah, exactly. This is why we're all friends, right? but literally though, like I never thought or gave any thought towards my future, especially during that time. So when it came to it, I was really afraid. I was actually pretty stressed also lah, because I don't know what I want to do with life, and like this is something that has to happen. Like I'm like thinking about it now, and I think this is usually how I think about or deal with things also. When like super uncertain, initially I'm usually very stressed out, because it's a whole load of emotions that suddenly come, and like I just don't know how to handle it. So over time, it took a while. I went for what's it? What was those education fairs and stuff like that, right? So I went for all of that, just looked at the different options. Like, I mean, funny enough, I was actually almost about to take like hospitality and not psychology. But,
okay.
oh yeah lah, I was like, okay lah, just still exploring and whatnot. And then I stumbled across the booth about help. And I was like, oh, okay. So after explaining the course and whatnot, right? So I was like, okay lah, I was actually interested in something, and then it made me realize that all those thoughts and stress were like really unnecessary also. But it was it's hard to control emotions and all that. So like, yeah, for me, slowly just taking my time, going through things, looking at the different options, then I was able to come to a conclusion that yeah, I wanted to study psychology, and here I am with everyone.
Voila.
Yeah, but I like what Shun said just now, like how we don't even know what we like yet. We don't even know what we do in our lives. We just finished high school, and we're supposed to pick something that we're going to study, which will shape our future, which we like. How is that even right? So yeah, I just say like, for me, I took foundation in science to be an engineer.
That lasted for a semester.
That lasted for a semester. So I actually initially after high school, I really like Shun. I didn't know what I want to do. And since I was a go with the flow guy, Chinese family, everyone, and either you're engineer, like they say like, but my family a lot engineer, so I said, okay, I'll become engineer just so that they won't continue to bug me lah. So I said, I'm gonna take engineering. I actually signed up for foundation in science. I was looking into Utah also. It's a full engineering course. But then I during after my first semester, I changed to foundation arts. It's like, fuck this. Engineering is not my thing. I'm gonna die. So I switched to foundation in arts, and at that time I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was literally clueless. I actually considered going to mass communication because I wanted to do video, I wanted to do production. I'm not saying that that is not a good path, but in our culture, there is that thing that mass comm is someone 不会读书的人去, someone who cannot study will go and do that. But I don't
It's
see
a
it that way.
prejudice.
Yeah, it's a prejudice. That course is a very creative course. It's something I actually very like also. But because of culture-wise, I said, okay, I take business stuff. So I actually took up business and I did a production on the side. I learned production and all those on the side. So after that, I come to a crossroad university. I think Shun, by the time you already knew you wanted to do psychology, right? Dell also. By the time I legit didn't know what to do, as I said, business seemed like the most generic option because everything is literally a business, and my friends were taking psych. So I literally took business. I took business psych, and I got into production on my own on the side with my YouTube and podcast. And I'm still going to flow. Nothing has been exactly set. I'm now working in a youth development with also with a financial advisory. So you see, I'm not even a finance major, and see how the paths go. Sometimes it's not saying that it's set in stone. What you study is what you have to do. There's always uncertainty, especially even after you graduate, you wouldn't even know what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, even though you have like a predetermined path that you set for yourself, like all that may not necessarily come true, and like anything can happen, anything can change.
Anything can happen, anything can change.
Right.
I literally told my mom I wouldn't be a teacher. I wouldn't teach people. I do workshops
his
every
mom is a
week or
shit
so.
teacher.
So, yeah.
I think moral of the story is
More of the story.
yeah, I mean, like, uncertainty is something that will
Yeah.
always be there for people, and there is never really a predetermined path for anyone. Like, again, anything could happen. You could think you want to do something one day and completely do something else another day. There are like tons of people who graduate from a particular major and who end up doing something
Everything
completely
else.
different. And at the end, I think it's really just all about that, like what Elton mentioned. It's about embracing uncertainty, trying to deal with it to the best you can, and go with the flow, but just be smart with making your decisions. So
Okay.
I think that's how we can summarize everything.
Regarding career, right? There's one funny thing that if you look at stand-up comedians, right, a lot of them are actually doctors.
Yeah.
If you actually look at it, a lot of stand-up comedians are actually doctors. But yeah, this is a fun fact.
Yeah.
Anything
but
anything can happen.
True. So actually, there was one thing that Elton mentioned that I was really interested in. So he mentioned about Asian society, in a sense, what your family sort of hopes that you go into, especially in your career, in your studies, and also about peer pressure. You know, how he has, because he has friends in at that time when he didn't know what he wants to do, he had friends in business and in psychology. So in the end, he ended up doing business psychology. So in a form, though it may not be purely peer pressure, but there is some sort of peer influence, right? So I wanted to ask you, how much of peer pressure and the whole idea of Asian family culture has the influence on the decisions that you've made?
For me personally, zero. I do what I want to do, and I don't really care what anyone else. Okay lah, maybe that's a bit harsh. I take into account certain like considerations and stuff like that. Obviously, if my friends think it's not that good, I would just try to listen and see how and assess it lah. But I guess at the end,
Don't make decisions based.
That's only for me, right? Like, other people are more family oriented. Other people are more like malleable. So they tend to take more opinions more to heart, and maybe that affects their decisions as well. Not to say I don't entirely, but for the most important things,
Yeah.
if it makes me feel good and I feel and it's building my own career and stuff like that, I'm just gonna stick with it lah. I don't care if anyone says like, oh, you work like this, then you are seen like this and stuff like that. Like the whole notion of all these prejudice and stereotypes, I don't really care.
I think sometimes it's not only the prejudice and stereotype coming from Asian communities, but it's at that point of time, you have no idea what you're gonna do. And those are the options that people have done, people have presented in front of you. So you are choosing from that limited pool of things that you have experienced. That's why it's not so much of, I think it's not so much of them influencing you or what to take, is that you have only seen so much. You only know so much at that time. You don't know anything else about it. I didn't even know that youth development was like a whole industry on their own, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think now the Asian culture has been more open to it, to having different paths. But as I said, even though they're more open, the past, your relatives, your seniors, your elders have all only done that. So that's your reference point. Kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I also really resonate with all that's happening, especially on the part where you say that when you are lost and you're uncertain, you will literally take any option that is given to you, because that is the safest and the easier way, quote unquote, easier way to solve or handle that issue. So yeah, I think that is a very good point to mention. All right, so we are nearing the end. All right, and I just want to wrap up the whole session with a very more personal question. All right, in essence, how do you personally deal with your uncertainties and indecisions? Okay, aside from going with the flow, because we've mentioned a lot about going with the flow. So what would be your personal advice or personal experience in to dealing with uncertainties and indecisions?
Honestly, even though I say a lot of flipping a coin, please don't flip a coin to decide your decisions.
Always flip a coin to decide.
Unless
Nah,
it's places you
I'm
want to
kidding,
eat.
I'm
Don't think
kidding.
it works that way. Okay, unless it's like deciding where you want to eat or deciding what
yeah.
movie you want
Dude,
to
even
watch.
though you flip a coin, right? And it lands on there, everyone's like, no, don't want. Somewhere else.
There's always
But
a saying, when you flip the coin, okay, let's say you're between choice A and B lah. The moment you flip the coin and you see that coin flipping in the
you already
air,
have a choice in your mind already.
correct. But yeah, sorry, aside from that.
Aside from that, I mean, on a more serious matter, how to deal with it, research, find out about what every concern or every bit of uncertainty, there's a chance that you can learn more about it, right? So if it's career-wise, you can always Google. If it's heck, even like something more casual, like a new hobby you've always wanted to try, like you can always search up about it. There's YouTube, there's Google, like find out more to make yourself less uncertain, and then you can usually have a clearer mind and better options in your head when it comes to making a decision. So for me, I think that would be the best way lah.
Okay.
Or talk to
And
people.
Elton?
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
totally agree with Shun. Mainly indecision and uncertainty comes from lack of information and lack of experience. So definitely you can search it up, things that you want to do, things that you want to try out. And I think that is the technical part of it. You can always search it up. But for experiences, that's why I actually started this podcast in the start also. It allows me to actually approach people and talk about experiences, learn from their perspectives. And that is where you get the things that you don't see in books, the experience and how do they deal it from a emotional, personal side. And that's why mentors actually really, really help you in finding your way in life, because they have done it. Even though it's not exactly the same path, you won't make the same mistakes that they did. Okay, so that's one. And another thing about that is you deal with it with first asking, knowing that don't think that you know everything. You never know everything. All right, there's always more to learn. So just keep that in mind as I think that's the main take home advice. For me,
Yeah.
although I try a lot of things, I talk to a lot of people, try to network and gain knowledge, experience. I always remind myself that you never know everything. Right. So that's how you can move forward.
Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
If you never try, you will never know, and you will always be uncertain.
Correct.
As cliche as it is, it's very
As
true.
cliche as it is.
Yeah. I think the final thing that I wanted to add on is also, you know how whenever people come to us with their own problems and uncertainties, most of us, I'll say most of us, we are very good at giving advices, right? But the thing is that we don't take our own advices.
Story of my life. Welcome.
Exactly. So I think that's the thing that is so ironic in a sense that we are so good at giving advices, but then we don't take our own advices. So that is one thing that I really wanted to highlight on how you're going to deal with all these uncertainties that come along in life. Imagine that you are the person, all right, and I don't know, the air is the one that's having the issue, and the air asks you the question, and you just answer back. The moment you answer back, you take up your own advice.
That's why we have sifu, we have mentor. These terms exist because we cannot trust ourselves. Not that we cannot trust ourselves, we just cannot act on our own.
It's the validation, I would say.
Yeah. So anyone that outside says right is correct. When you say to others, right, you might not even take your own advice. Okay. And because sometimes
that's why this podcast exists.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Like Chinese, there's this quote, 旁观者清. So okay, both of you are looking at me like what the heck you just said.
Yes, 我可以讲华语啊。Yes.
So
我
basically
明白。
旁观者清 means basically the person that is not you, someone at the side, will see the clearest. You are always going to be clouded by your own biases, your own excuses, your own way of trying to rationalize things. While people on the side can always see through your bullshit.
It's your own doubt, right?
Yeah.
Like
your own also, doubt, your overconfidence, all this will cloud your judgment.
Right. Okay, so I think that is the end of this episode. Before we end, I just wanted to say that my final words per se, okay, is that we are very used to hearing people say life is full of uncertainties and surprises. You just have to learn to live with it. Well, yes, it is very true, but it's always easier said than done, right? As Shun mentioned, it's always easier said than done for at least the most of us. Right? No matter how much of mental preparation we have towards uncertainty, we are bound to feel scared or lost or anxious because we are just humans, right? And it's just very natural. So do give yourself some time to embrace and analyze all that's happening. Take your own advices, seek help.
No, don't take your own advices.
Sometimes,
no, but to a certain,
depends.
Yeah, to a certain extent, listen to yourself. Right? Yeah, do listen to yourself and always remember that you are not alone in this journey.
No, not. I think I was to say, don't listen to what you say. Listen to what you feel.
Wow. Feelings.
When we say something, we always tend to rationalize things before it comes out of our mouth. But what you feel, right? It's knowing that things are right or wrong. That's what we call like sixth sense, a gut feel, all those. Is your body or your mind telling you that maybe this is not something you should be doing? You know, you feels right or it feels wrong. That doesn't come from the brain. You cannot rationalize that shit.
It's from the heart.
It's from the heart. All right, okay. So with that, we have come to the end of this 3-parter episode of the mental health series. Thank you so much for watching. And as much as we've enjoyed discussing these topics, we hope that we were able to, at least add some values in your life. All right. If you've missed the first and second part of this series or the special episode with the mental health professionals, don't worry because we have them on our YouTube channels and on Spotify, so you can just search them up and watch them. If you have any comments, feedback, yes. Mike Talk Podcast. So if you have any comments or feedbacks or anything else do you want to know about, do just let us know, okay? And we'll attend to it and see how we can bring these stories or those discussions to you. All right, once again, we'd like to emphasize that all the discussions throughout the three parters were based on our personal thoughts and opinions, which should not be taken as professional help or guidance. Right? Always seek credible mental health professionals and qualified health providers for sound advice.
Not
Right? And that
psychology
wraps up.
graduates.
Yes, correct. No, actually, not even a psychology graduate because we're not exactly.
So I say
like,
not psychology graduates.
Yes, sorry, I missed that out. But yes, not psychology graduates. We're not equipped to help you professionally. But if you want just a friendly advice, then by all means do come to us. All right, and that wraps up this episode. We'll see you at the next. Thank you and take care.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.